minimizing charisma, maximizing intelligence, shooting someone in the crotch with a cannonball, thrust, propulsion. It's science-y.
Why you always gotta be blowing my spot up like that? There are my runes. There they are. I'm not mad. Science needs art and art needs science. They both need each other to function properly.
There are ways to figure out what the paper is really saying.
And then I'm ready to get on Twitter and yell at people about doing their own research on...
Oh, hold on there, sports fan.
Kyle Hill, everybody! He's the next generation of science communicator. I'm going to be too old at a certain point to do those terrible things to my body, and it'll be up to you.
He's got like a lion's mane. This guy's amazing. Kyle Hill.
I'm Boo Rambo.
The universe is indifferent to you. Whether or not you have amazing hair, the universe doesn't care.
How are trees pushing past this pressure limit? Behold, my balls. Now we're getting somewhere, but I still don't think it's worthy of G.R.R. Martin's suspender.
I'm totally right? Post up photos of my frickin' hair? Is that what you all want? No, you don't, weirdos.
Kyle Hill. Is your last name actually Hemsworth? What's going on?
Our resident Thor lookalike?
I prefer Black Friday Chris Hemsworth.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, you know, if you need a haircut...
No, of course not! We're not gonna send sharks with frickin' laser beams on their heads to an asteroid. We're gonna nuke it. You don't need Bruce Willis at all. Wrenched. Oh! Headshot! Oh! Kevin, turn on the monitor. Kevin, this transition better work. The blast doors can't. Kevin, turn it on. Kevin. Kevin, call his agent and have them call my agent.
Kyle Hill, happy birthday. Feliz Navidad.
I'm just a biologist. I don't know how this works. This is how you do science. Can I just grab it? Oh. Laws, corollaries. Bye-bye.
I know that global catastrophe isn't the most fun thing to think about all day unless you're me, so...
Are we gonna do some science, bro?
Lasers don't have that much momentum.
That's not how clockwise works.
Don't worry, you can do this even if you are not an AI.
It boots the boundary layer around a person through a dynamic.
And I guess it matters what kind of dragon we're talking. Realize here is that the bigger the thing does.
This kite is completely inaccurate. I'm gonna kill this guy and tell him to his face. You're wrong about physics. Not enough lift force. Oh.
Nuclear metal donut thing with magnetically confined star-like plasma. The radiation flux in here alone is enough to cause instant death.
That's really funny. I like that idea.
Hey, look at me. I'm a streamer. I have a bedroom. We know anything with a decapitation hazard deserves to, yeah.
Ooh. Oh, that's good. That's fine.
Put it on PBS. I dare you. What's that? No. Some people actually think the stream intro is too long. Yeah, no, I mean it is longer than the original one. It's almost 2.5 times longer. Yeah, but some, it's hard to please chat these days. What's that? About $125,000. I know. I mean, but, regardless of the catch, what am I supposed to do? I mean, am I supposed to not show people how awesome I are and people think I am? Hello? They didn't even call 911. They knew. Hello, and welcome to Office Hours, a live component of the facility where good old Professor Kyles opens up his blast doors, starts talking in the Jar Jar Binks style dialect on accident, and allows you, all my members of the facility here, all my staff, and all of the members of the general public, come in. Join us for the next hour or so as I lead you through some of the most interesting science and hey-ha-wow of the day, all at the same time, taking your comments, questions, and corrections. Everything. Today we'll be talking about Megalodon and some very clever science that figured out that Megalodon was at the top of all tippity-top food chains. But of course, if you want to continue on this conversation after we are live, you can always go back to the main channel. You can always join the facility at patreon.com/Kyle Hill and join the facility today. You get a silky white lab coat or crew neck if you're nasty. You get to see episodes early, like the 3 Mile Island episode. You get to chat with me every day on our private Discord. You get bloopers. You get everything. And I will try my very best if you choose to donate live via Super Chat, as you're seeing here. Can't promise I'll get to everything, but even if I don't get to it, know that it's still going towards our nerdy mission here at the facility, which is, in addition to providing you the best, most entertaining science content, it's also fixing up this light. It's also fixing up this light. As you know, of course, we're always trying to... Yep. So that's what we're doing here. As an example, that Kaylin Andy... I have one hair that's only going in my mouth. That's why I'm doing that. Kaylin Andy with a $30.99 from Australia. As I have told everyone, I am currently auditioning to be Thor's hair double in the next Thor film. So any Australian donations will be read in my evolving Australian dialect. Kaylin Andy with a $30.99. Hope you're doing well, Kyle. Thank you, Kaylin. Very appreciate it. Let's crack straight into it. Salty Salt, welcome. Can you make a Ben Shapiro joke? Only if it's funny. Hey, everybody. So, what we will be doing, like I said, is going through some shark science of Megalodon. And if you have any comments, questions, corrections as we do so, please hit me up. I will be keeping an eye on chat this whole time, as you can see. And I should mention, right after this stream, we are continuing on our Fallout New Vegas Scientist Plays adventure, where your boy here plays some of the best games of all time while sciencing them before your very eyes. It is no exaggeration to say it is the only science plus gaming stream that you can see on the internet. Not just watch us play, but watch us learn together. We have Cody Nisbet with the 5. Kai, I've always wondered, when talking about large numbers, why do people say something like a trillion when it is several? Why say it several times instead of it's another number? So, I like to say, and this is a technique that Carl Sagan used to do. So instead of saying a number like quadrillion or septillion or anything like that, he would go billion or 1,000 million. And he did that as... get this hair out of my face. He did that very deliberately as a way to impress upon you the enormitude of a number for which you have no conception of. You probably have a good sense of how many 10 things are. 100 things? Maybe. 1,000 things? Not so much. 100,000? Definitely not. It's hard to tell what 100,000 of something is, and it's probably because in our evolution it was never a pressure for a social animal such as we to know what 10,000 or 100,000 conceptually looks and feels like. Similarly, we have, when we've reached out into the cosmos and explored and explained and measured, everything about the cosmos and in astronomy generally is so big and so large and so past our scale of understanding that saying something like a quadrillion doesn't help you. Like, I think 1 light year is something like, what is it? It's 10 trillion kilometers, something like that. And you have no conception of that. So by saying 1,000 million or a trillion, it's trying to make that number more accessible. That's all. Hey, Kyle, love the show. This is the first live stream I've been able to catch Joseph Frankow. Well, guess what? It's shark time. Get off the screen. Oh, gee. Megalodon. The largest carnivorous predator that's not a filter feeder kind of thing to ever live. I say that because the blue whale is bigger. But Megalodon is an absolutely enormous shark. It is definitely extinct today, despite what some very crappy Discovery Channel shows and History Channel shows might want you to believe. Kyle, why is it definitely extinct? Because anything this big, with such an ecological footprint as we are about to discuss, anything with that much of an impact on its ecosystem, again, we'll get to that, would be impossible not to notice today. Could the Megalodon jump out of water like modern white sharks? How high? I don't know. Jason Statham says it's real. Jason Statham says a lot of things. Just one more job. I'm the transporter. Remember when I had just a little bit of hair back there, and now I'm in Fast Furious movies. Crank 2. Anyway. So something with such a large ecological impact would be literally impossible to miss. We'd be seeing whales bitten in half and crap, you know. It'd be hard to miss. So they're extinct as of today, but we're learning more and more about them. How do we do that? Well, we'll get to that. First, the scope and scale of this thing is absolutely enormous. They also couldn't deal with the pressure of the Mariana Trench, most likely, says Tyler. When people say, "Oh, they're living in the Mariana Trench, that's why you can't find them," or it's just dumb. They're only saying that because you can't go down there easily. It's like the more you try to explain some cryptid, like a Bigfoot or a Loch Ness monster or an alive megalodon, the more the proponents of these conspiracy theories shrink back into corners that you can't find, right? Well, you know, UFO, I saw one. Yeah, but now everyone on Earth has a camera, and now we're seeing less and less in them. Well, that's because they can travel faster than light, and they're invisible. Oh, well, how would I see them then? You can't, but I know they're there. People told me I'm crazy, but I knew. You know. Liz with a 20. Tiny Human Alex has a question. What is your favorite dinosaur? Alex says mine is Brontosaurus and T-Rex, and my mom likes the Ankylosaurus and Velociraptors. Liz and Alex, I'm a big guy. But also Utah Raptors pretty cool. Anyway, first time catching you live, says Aaron Levenstein. Welcome, Aaron. So, like I said, they don't live in the Mariana Trench. They don't exist anymore. They are extinct, not extant. There's your first little thing to take away from the stream today. If you don't know the word, extant is the opposite of extinct, and it just means still alive and swimming. Now, look at the size of this shark. That is not a tiny action figure of a Karen. That is a full-size lady. And that is a full-size shark. It is hard to impress upon you just how big the Megalodon was. So up to between 15 and 20 meters long, which is 50 to 60 feet. That's more than half as long as a blue whale. And it makes other sharks look like shrimp. Really. Now we start getting into the science. Okay. How do we know? Aaron with the 20. Must have loved that joke. I bet you've never heard it before. I'm sorry. Key and Peele ruined your life. Now, how do we learn more and more about extinct creatures? You will say, the bones, Kyle. The bones. Okay. But what do sharks not have? Darth Canadian with a 30. How does mass create gravitational force? All I get is gravitons, but it seems like those old theories about how light works using only our eyes as feelers. And I'm not sure if it's up to date. What you're describing are two different things, Darth. Gravitons are thought to be the mediators of the gravitational force in a similar way that other forces in the universe have mediators that are particles that go out into the universe and do something. And we haven't observed gravitons yet. But in terms of why something with mass causes gravity, you go back to the more relativistic idea that Einstein had, where masses cause depressions in the fabric of space-time, so to speak, and rather than being a force, gravity itself is this topography of space-time, such such that if you had, the classic demonstration, a bowling ball on a sheet, something would be compelled to move towards it in an orbit. Sam Rodriguez with the 2. As someone with a shark sleeve tattoo, I'm ecstatic. Sam, you might get a Megalodon tattoo at the end of this. Kate B with the $9.99. Hey, Kyle, I'm curious. What other Sci YouTubers do you watch? I adore PBS Eons, AVNJ, and Minuteman. Kate B, this is gonna... Crikey, look at the size of that one. KP, this might sound surprising to you, but I don't really watch my colleagues all that much. I keep in touch with them, I text them, I watch what they're doing in terms of like what topics they're covering and how they're presenting things, but I don't really keep up with everything that my colleagues are doing, and that's for a very specific reason. I don't want to kind of osmosis their ideas into my brain such that I would start ripping them off or something. I rip off other YouTubers, but not them. So how do we figure out more about the Megalodon if sharks don't have bones? And it's very hard to find remnants of creatures that fall to the bottom of the ocean, so to speak. Very little of a shark is preserved, except its teeth. Now, fun fact, which I didn't know until I started researching this. Kamina, hello. I didn't know this till I looked into it, but shark teeth are one of the most prevalent fossils in the ocean, period. Like, of all the fossils that we've found or could find in marine environments, shark teeth in terms of percentage are way up there. Why? Well, because they have the hardened part, the caramel, creatine, melanin, enamel. There we go. Because they have enamel, which is very chemically and environmentally resistant. Because it's supposed to be. It's an adaptation that allows creatures to bite through flesh and bone. So enamel, caramel, yeah, that was close. Enamel, my brain only works with SEO. It rhymes with caramel, kind of. Enamel has a melanin. Nice. Enamel, melanin. I got it. So enamel. Enamel is very chemically and environmentally resistant, which means it's preserved quite well, which means you find it in the fossil record. And as you can see from those black and white boxes measuring the scale of the tooth, we can use... Chat, don't do this. Chat, don't make me mess it up anymore. As you can see, from the size of the tooth, we can infer the size of the creature, like we do with the femur bones of dinosaurs. The femur is a good indicator of how big an animal has to be, right? Because the femur is not like a tiny bone. It's the biggest bone in your body, unless you're Ben Shapiro and you don't have a spine. It's not a tiny bone, right? The femur, it's not like a digit. You could find, if you found like a digit from a dinosaur site, and it was longer, it's harder to tell. A small dinosaur could have a long finger or not, but a small dinosaur couldn't have a giant femur the size of a tree trunk. So if you find a femur the size of a tree trunk, it infers... LOL, got him. It infers the size of the creature. Similarly, the shark needs to have a certain sized jaw to accommodate such a huge tooth. And if that jaw is so big, then the head probably needs to be so big, which means the body needs to be big enough to support the head, etc., etc. So in this way, scientists can look at a shark tooth, work backwards, and get a 20-foot plus 40 feet, a 60-foot Megalodon. Inazuma Fool with a 10. Miss you, Kyle. Welcome back. Thanks for always being my favorite source of science. Chat, I hope you're all having a great day. Let's get some love for Inazuma Fool. Looking out. out for all the other chatters. Jonathan Fennell with a 20. Woo! Kyle, I was wondering if you've seen the research from Paul Woskov at the MIT Plasma and Fusion Center on gyrotron drilling and the possible application for geothermal energy. You should do a video on it. I will look into it. I have not heard about it. Noah E. With the 5, member from the Mythbusters episode. Remember the Mythbusters episode where they created a Meg Jaw and the bite force threw Grant off the podium? How strong do you think the jaw force was for a Meg? A Megalodon's jaw, again, is absolutely enormous, and on the sides of the jaw, you see those ridges, and those ridges would be where the muscles attach, right? Because it has to do something. So, what? Some people don't like what I said. What the heck? What the heck is that? Anyway. Kyle's slowly turning into Yoda. Escape words do, yes? Bones attached to the jaws of a thing. The bigger the jaw, the more muscles can fit. Oh, what did I say? Bones attached to the jaw? Oh, man. One sec. Nice. Muscles attached to the jaw of the thing. Which is why, for example, a gorilla has such a big, tall head. Because a gorilla spends most of its day chewing. That's true. And so it needs a lot of jaw muscles. And that's why the jaw and the head, the cranium, is so big, because muscles attach all the way down the side of its dang hairy face. Don't say anything. So, to answer your question, I'm not sure how big the Megalodon's bite force was, but with that much jaw and that much muscle, it had to be incredibly substantial. Now, moving along, I don't even know where I was. I say that's how you get, that's how you get a 60-foot Megalodon, but you can assume what the diet is of these things, and I think we've done that for a long time. We've assumed that for a creature so large, such as the Meg, that it must have a tremendous diet. It must eat whales and giant seals and etc., etc. But it's one thing to assume, and it's one thing to know. Can you imagine the mercury concentrations in a Megalodon? It says matter beam, the meat would be toxic. You are on the right track, my friend, for what I'm about to say. Hey, Kyle, my first time not being at work during your stream, says Alan Sturm. Happy to be here. We briefly met in Madison, and you signed my Mjolnir. I remember you, Alan. I do. Curious, have you read the 3-Body Problem trilogy? Thoughts of sub? No, it's actually on my bookshelf right near me. I have. But thank you for coming and seeing me in Madison. My hammer now says that you are worthy, or the other way around. So it's a different thing to know what these sharks eat, and how would you get at that? Matterbeam in the chat said something about mercury concentration, and that has to get at an idea called bioaccumulation. That is, through the food chain, this, you start at the bottom of the food chain, that stuff eats stuff. Other animals or organisms eat that stuff, etc., 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 all the way up the food chain, and materials, chemicals, atoms, and molecules bioaccumulate, or some can. If they stay in the tissues, the more creatures you eat that already have some stuff in those tissues, you get more of a concentration in your own. And this happens with mercury in tuna, in every other organism in the ocean. But for this one, Matterbeam, specifically, what the scientists did was look inside the tooth. Look inside the tooth. Would anything have preyed on Megalodon, says Kate B. We're getting to that. We're getting to that. So what these researchers did in a new study, which I will call out because I'm a good person, Cenozoic megatooth sharks occupied extremely high trophic positions by Emma R. Cast et al. Now what they did was drill into these well-preserved teeth and took out a little core. And then they turn that core into gas, and then they vaporized it, and then they put that gas through a spectrometer to look at what elements, what atoms and molecules were inside of it. And what they found, well, what they were looking for, rather, is right down at the bottom of that chart. So see that little squiggly 15? Forget that for now. Just look at the 15 and the N. N is for nitrogen. Life on Earth needs nitrogen to grow their bodies and just to live on this planet. And so as creatures live and eat other creatures, they accumulate nitrogen in their body. But specifically, they accumulate nitrogen 15, which is an isotope of nitrogen that is preferentially kept in the body's tissues. So nitrogen 14, which is the normal version, non-isotopic, is that even a word? Version of nitrogen is excreted. It's peed and pooped out of there. But nitrogen 15 is held onto in the tissues. And so, in this way, if you were to get a carcass of some animal, and you were to look at the nitrogen 15 concentration in that creature's tissues, you would have an idea of where it was in the food chain, right? If it only had a little, maybe it's just one level up in the food chain. Maybe it's only eating, krill and other microscopic organisms. It's not getting very much nitrogen at all. But if it's higher up in the food chain, that means something is eating something that's already ate something with nitrogen. And it's in a pyramidal kind of way. The more creatures you eat, the higher up the food chain you are, the more nitrogen you'd have in your system. Nitrogen 15. Kyle, if deep-sea gigantism affects a number of deep-sea creatures, why aren't most/all creatures supersized? Says Inazuma with a 10. Well, gigantism always needs a number of environmental pressures to be there or not. So I would assume that why isn't everything in the ocean gigantic? Well, A, maybe it doesn't have to be successful. Evolution doesn't go with the optimal or the biggest or the strongest, only what works. A slug is as evolved as Ben Shapiro. And secondly, it could be something as a limiting factor, right? It could be there's not enough food. I mean, if in its daily life, in the population over time, over millions of years, if there's simply not enough animals to eat, you can't put on body mass and gain nitrogen 15. Blue Vanga with the 10 says, hey, Kyle, love the latest Half-Life episode. We'll get to that. Just want to say your video inspired me to pursue my career as a hairstylist, says Blue Vanga. Happy to help, Blue. Happy to help. Now, could the prevalence of their teeth also be because their dominance in the seas? Oh, I think I forgot to say this. The reason why shark teeth are one of the most numerous fossils in the ocean is simply because they regrow them. Unlike any other bony anything, shark teeth regrow. I think I saw the sand tiger shark or the sand shark, I forget, loses an average of 1 tooth per day over a 10-year lifespan. So just one shark could make thousands of fossils. That is completely different for every other organism, right? When you die, you can only put a little over 300 bones into the ground. Not sharks. They're boning it up in Bone Town their entire lives. So, is this the right image? Boop. So this brings us to the concept of trophic levels. Trophic coming from is it Greek? Greek, yeah, referring to food or nourishment. So food levels, the food pyramid, food webs. That's what we're talking about. Now, trophic levels are kind of what I'm getting at with this accumulation of nitrogen 15. So just a little bit of backstory here. The lowest trophic level, the lowest food eating level in any ecosystem are the producers. The things that grow from like the sun's energy or recycled nutrients, as you can see in the decomposers here. But we're talking about stuff like plankton and plants, stuff that doesn't eat other stuff. Decomposers are kind of in the middle ground there, but say plankton or plants just photosynthesizing and generating something for others to eat. That's primary. That's level 1. The level above that eats mostly the primary. Level above that, mostly the secondary. The secondary eats mostly the primary, and so on and so on and so on. Now you see these percentages here. This is the energy efficiency. So if primary producers have 100% of the energy, about 10% of that energy, and this is just an efficiency that we've calculated and studied, about 10% of that energy and that mass goes into the bodies of the next level up. So as you can see, at the very tippity top of this pyramid, at the apex predators, they're only getting 0.01% of the energy from primary producers. So at every level, you need, as you work down, apex predator needs to feed on a lot of third level. Third level needs to eat even more secondary, even more primary. Primary has to eat a lot of primary producers, right? That's why whales, the blue whale, can eat up to 500,000 calories per gulp. Dylan Taylor with a 10. Hey, show, love Kyle the many times viewer, first time dooner. How can man-made machines create temperatures similar to the surface of the sun without melting and catching everything on fire? Dylan, if you want to create something as hot as the surface of the sun, you can just get a really, really good microscope and something rated for temperatures that hot. The perfect microscope, I said that. The perfect magnifying glass can magnify a point to as hot as the surface of the sun, because a magnifying lens can only make something as hot as what is producing it. Elsker with a 10. What are human nitrate levels? Could it be that they were only a little of... Oh my god. What are human nitrate levels? Could it be that they were only a little of them, that they were just untouchable like humans for most of the part now? Kind of anyway? Elsker. Are you all right? Twins with the 20. Who do you think would win? Megalodon versus Livyantan Melveli. I don't know what that means. Matterbeam says it's really hard to come up with food chains with more than 3 levels, like carrot, rabbit, fox. 4th level is very rare. 5th level, nearly unheard of, says Matterbeam. Well, guess what? Now, I said all of this to get to our shark bit. How you calculate something's trophic level, TL, trophic level in this pyramid, is you start with 1, assuming that, if you're going from a 1 to 10, or as Matterbeam was saying, 1 to 5 scale, which is, spoiler alert, what most of ecosystems are, 1 to 5 trophic levels, 5 being rare. 5 would be an apex predator in most circumstances. You start with 1, assuming that it's above a primary producer, and then you take the sum of the trophic level, TL, sum of the trophic level multiplied by the fraction of the diet. The sum of those. So let's say that something eats in its diet half plants and half cows. Its trophic level would be 1 plus the sum of a secondary trophic level, a cow, times 0.5, 1/2, plus 1 times 0.5. Right? If you're eating something, if I eat half grass and half cow, and cows eat grass, and I do half and half, I get 2.5. Cows are at 2.5. Okay? That all makes sense? So you multiply, you take what you're eating, what's its trophic level, how much of my diet is that, and then I sum up I take all the food that I eat, and then that will place me in the food web. Now, interestingly, Chat, what do you think the trophic level of humans is? Found you through Adam Savage. Love the content, says Jay Benson with a New Zealand $2. Thank you. Make a daddy coming through once again. Okay, so let's say, so as Matterbeam said, trophic levels, and as you can see in the pyramid, 1 through 5 are very, that's most ecosystems. So from number 1 to 5, 5 being apex, where do you think humans are? I'll give you a second while I look up a number. Where is the 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 3, 3, 2.5. Crafty says 42. I have bad news. 3, 4, 4, 3.5, 7. Now remember, this is a fraction. Remember, it's weighted. So you take the percentage of the thing, like if you eat mostly plants, that's 0.75 times 1, plus if you eat cows, that's 0.25 times 2. So it makes, if you eat a lot more plants than meat, it's going to push it down a little bit because meaty boys are higher up in the food chain. 2, 5, 4, 1.5. Does it depend on what eats us? Says Ann Foley. No, it does not. Where the heck am I? I'm trying to find the actual 2.5. Okay, so I'll let you off the hook here. The estimated trophic level of humans is 2.2. We are not apex predators. In this instance, in this configuration, we are on the same level as wait, I want to get this right. We are at the same trophic level as anchovies. We are at the same point in the food chain as anchovies. Okay? And pigs. Now I'm trying to find the actual... Trying to find the results of this. This is taking me... Talk amongst yourselves for just... I need to find the actual trophic level in this study. I'm messing up here. So, we can put humans on pizza? Yes. Okay. I forgot I was watching this live. I know, I forgot I was live for a second. Because I didn't have this number beforehand. Which is, you know, not great. So, what I'm trying to get at is that if the average range for an ecosystem of a trophic levels is from 1 to 5 or so, humans are at 2.2. What is the Megalodon at? Well, I can tell you that the Megalodon is of the highest trophic level of any shark. Much higher than any great white shark jaws type individual. Oh, wait. Okay, wait. I'm here. Wait. Okay. Jeez, crap. Okay. So, here we go. Now, how many, I bet no one stuck with me through this, huh? No. Hey, some of you are still here. That's nice. Okay, so, we talked about trophic levels. The higher you are in the food pyramid, the more things that eat other things you are eating. Why do we know that? Because we see the accumulation of nitrogen-15 in your body's tissues. These scientists for Megalodon took Megalodon megateeth, drilled into them, turned the drilled dust into gas stuff, ran it through a $250,000 machine that said, hey, there's this much nitrogen-15 in that. And from that, they found that their trophic level in the ancient seas was not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, an average of 7.5, going all the way up to possibly 9. Now, what this means is that this is the highest trophic level, the highest point in a food chain that has ever been discovered for anything in the oceans ever. Now, I don't know if this also extends to the land generally, but this means that to get to this trophic level, to have this amount of nitrogen-15 in its tissues, in its teeth, these megalodon not only ate literally anything and everything. So great white sharks don't eat everything. They eat mostly seals. But these megalodon didn't just eat seals. They ate other sharks, other large sharks, and each other. These sharks were so big, so massive, and so voracious that they were the apex of any apex predator in the ocean ever. And that didn't have to be the case, right? Animals that get this big could just feed on primary producers, like blue whales do, with plankton, etc. And they're a little bit higher because they eat bait fish and stuff sometimes. But Megalodon here, which I tried to get the scale right, I'm about rightly scaled. So imagine that. Imagine that. They ate everything. Each other, other sharks, all of it. Sharks that eat other sharks that eat seals, they ate those too. The highest trophic level of any known marine organism. And now that you understand what a trophic level is, how much you need to eat it, how to eat to get there, how you can measure that from something's teeth, well, it's time to see what you have to say about it. I feel like I don't know if I'm off today. My brain's just not working right. This energy drink is literally flavored after a bubblicious strawberry gum. Charlie Spur with the 10. If we can viably reproduce with Neanderthals, and we did, and the definition of speciation says that we are no longer able to reproduce with each other, why isn't it called Homo sapiens neanderthalensis? Neanderthalensis. I think, well, you can also, there's different ways to speciate. And I'm stalling because I don't know the exact answer to your question. I would guess that there are main lineages of Neanderthals that we can't reproduce with, possibly. But if that's not the case, and I don't know off the top of my head, there are biologists will argue back and forth with each other about what makes a species, and one of the ways is just to be geographically distinct for a long enough period of time. It's not necessarily whether or not you can still interbreed, and whether or not and interbreeding is also leaving out whether or not you can interbreed and have viable offspring. Let me see. I don't want to say anything wrong for you, my babies. The earliest genetic studies of Neanderthal mitochondrial DNA support the idea that the origin of modern humans was a speciation event. So I don't think so. Then the idea would be you have it slightly backwards. So humans today, there was a speciation event, like being geographically separated, say most Neanderthals stayed on one part of the planet, and another lineage of Neanderthals went to another part of the planet. One way to speciate is to be separated for a long enough period of time that you become genetically distinct enough to not be able to have viable offspring anymore. So I imagine that when this happened in our ancient history, that today you wouldn't be able to have a viable offspring with a Neanderthal. And that's what makes Homo sapiens today, as of 200,000 years ago, that's what makes us distinct from them as a species. Are there any land creatures that made it over 5 trophic levels? Says Twitchy the Witch. I don't know. I said that the Megalodon is the highest marine apex predator we've ever discovered ever. But I don't know if that extends to land animals. And, yeah, I don't know if that's going to be an easy answer to just find. I'd probably have to look up a study. Twinge with a 20 again. That animal I mentioned is a fairly recent discovery in the world of paleontology. Back in 2008, the researchers who discovered it named it Leviathan. I wonder if it would put up a good fight. I don't even know what it is. Let's look it up. Oh, it's a giant whale. Look at this thing. Whew! How big was it? I'm wasting time. Crocodiles, maybe? No, see, polar bears are high, but don't know how much. Now, see, the distinction here in the trophic level thing is that to get higher up on the food chain, you need to eat things high up on the food chain, or higher up on the food chain. So, like killer whales eating sharks, which they do, and they've killed and eaten great white sharks. They've killed and eaten blue whales. Killer whales would be higher up in trophic level. Something like a crocodile, or just a shark that only eats seals, or just a crocodile that only eats buffalo or something, isn't as high as something that eats other apex predators. You know what I mean? Is Megalodon a shark? Yells Travis Haddon. Yeah. Michael T with a 2. Where would scavenger animals land, like vultures? Well, they're eating the meat of other predators, right? So, depends on, like we were saying, the percentage of their diet that is made up of primary, secondary, or tertiary food web peeps. Don't crocs eat enough lions? Yeah. Then they might be 4. Or they might be 5. What I'm trying to get at is the difference in... Z, you animal! Look at you, Z. Look at your name just move by us like that. Look at that. Incredible. Incredible. What I'm trying to get at is being a 5 on a trophic level food pyramid is rare, as Matterbeam said. So you're not eating plants. You're a thing that eats plants. So now let's try it. Now you're a cow. Okay. Now you're a thing that eats cows. Okay, let's say like a wild dog. We're at level 3. Now you have to be like a thing that eats wild dogs sometimes. Okay. Now we're at level 4. We're at like a lion or a tiger or something, right? Now you have to get to level 5, you have to be something that regularly has a lot of its diet being tigers. There's nothing like that exists, which is why the tiger is the apex predator in that environment. Now, it's hard. Try it. Try it wherever you are. Try it with a friend. Try it with yourself. Try to think of a food web that goes higher than 5 in your mind. Do that, and you'll see that being like a 7 or a 9 for a Megalodon is insane, right? So it's like, so you have like, you start with plankton. Let's try it. You start with plankton. Then you go to anchovies. And then you go to seals. And then you go to sharks. and then you go to killer whales. Okay. Now, to get to Megalodon 2 higher, you have to be like, okay, so there's something that eats killer whales, and then there's something that eats that giant thing that eats killer whales, and then there's something that eats that thing, and this thing, and killer whales, and everything else. It's very difficult to have a creature that does that. Z is back. Z just rode in on a Ducati Superbike. Ducati Superbike, all black, with some red metallic tint, put on sunglasses, just came from the theater, watching what? Doesn't matter. He has people putting on every play, Shakespearean plays around the clock. He's not even always there. He doesn't care. He wants them to happen. Z just wrote in with a $500 donation. Z! Oh no, I missed another stream. Dang it. No, you didn't, Z. You made it. But also the 3 Mile Island video really made me hate how much misinformation and fear can hinder the spread of progress and advancement. Z, not only are you a fantastic supporter of the facility, you are unknowingly a pretty good person to segue things. So, peer review. So, as I want to do on every episode of Office Hours, how long will it take for humans to evolve after they reach Mars, says Kevin Jude? That's going to take a couple of generations minimum, which means if each generation is 20 to 25 years, it's going to take more than 100 years, at least. Make no mistake, everything is evolving all the time. It's just to see macroscopic effects, large-scale effects, like from going from a proto-horse to a giraffe or something. That takes hundreds, thousands, millions of years. Okay. So in the last episode of the facility, we finally released, after 3 weeks of editing and hundreds of hours of editing, we finally released our 3 Mile Island documentary. If you have not seen it, I would very much like you to. I think it's maybe the most professional thing we've ever done. It's definitely the longest video at almost 37 minutes. Took us a lot of time. It was very hard to research and write, and we're very proud of it. So if you haven't watched it, watch it now. But as I'm wont to do, I want to go through the latest episode and take your comments, questions, and corrections by looking at what you left behind in the comments. I then make one of you an honorary member of the facility, and then Kevin gets you a plaque. I'm just making sure we do have a plaque. I don't see it right. Anyway, so a lot of you, how many? 1,700 comments or so already. The amount of misconceptions about nuclear power is unreal. Even more astounding is the incompetence that led to these events and Chernobyl. I remember these accidents as a kid and how we were educated about it later. So much fear-mongering, so little information or information that was correct. This is the same Cold War era that had us hiding under our desks like it would help during a nuclear blast. We need more science educators and people willing to reevaluate events like these. I'm so proud of you. Topic suggestion, some from Zabdooter Badooter. The relationship between stream donations, mental health, and addiction. No, I'm not going to look into that one. As a Martin RPM, rads per minute, maybe. As a radiation therapist, I had to learn the ins and outs of everything about radiation. In my rad bio class, I had to write a paper about 3 Mile Island. It was very interesting, and the accuracy of this video is amazing. I wish I could write my paper again after watching this, says Martin RPM with 69 upvotes, which means I'm going to leave it right there, and I'm going to heart it in real time. Remember the line in The Simpsons? Congratulations, you've turned a potential Chernobyl into a mere 3 Mile Island. Which, learning that 3 Mile Island was more bark than bite, this is actually even funnier. As someone whose entire family works for a nuclear power plant in some way and are directly responsible for maintaining the core and its equipment, I thank you for getting the word out. I forget that not everyone can see nuclear energy for what it is, a safer and more sustainable solution to our needs as a species. I watched the Netflix documentary and was initially confused about the TMI disaster. The film made more effort to highlight the feelings of people living nearby rather than the technical details of the event. Thanks, Kyle, for clarifying the event for me. I'm going to give it to 0. Just to confirm, Meg was on an 8 on the trophic level, says Martin K. According to the study we were discussing, you can go back and watch it later, but the trophic level was on average between 7.6 and 9. Insane. 0 for someone whose entire family works in the nuclear industry, and I get these kind of comments all the time, for people as smart and intelligent as you and everyone in the chat, everyone watching these videos, for everyone who has such an incredible intelligent background or something related to what I'm doing, and when you tell me that I did a good job or I was even just close or you appreciated it, it's really the best praise I can get as being a non-expert. So 0, you are officially now a member of the facility, and Kevin here will get you a plaque. What? Wait, this isn't a plaque. Let me just make sure it doesn't have any. This isn't a plaque. What? It's a piece of superconducting wire thinner than human hair, but underneath some special anti-X-ray space tape from JPL? Well, screw them. I'm keeping this. Watcher 77180 says, how do you address water contamination from nuclear power plants, especially with the wildlife in the water? Well, there is a way to do that. So when you hear about 3 Mile Island or Fukushima or any of those places, or anywhere really, discharging nuclear or discharging contaminated water into another body of water, whether it be in the ocean or the river, you do 2 things. First, you check what is the allowable rate, or what rate of radiation would be indistinguishable from background. Radiation is everywhere. Natural radiation is everywhere. It's coming at you from space. It's in the concrete in your homes. It's in the water. Radioactive isotopes are in the water. Slightly radioactive. So you check what the allowable levels are, because if you can get get near the natural level of radiation in some environment, then you have a good reason to believe that discharging radioactive material or tainted material into an environment won't change the environment. Second, what you do with radioactive water, which we talked about on an episode of Scientist Plays Fallout New Vegas, which we'll be doing about an hour after this. So stay tuned. What you do is like you would decontaminate any water source. So you find chemicals and filters that preferentially filter out fission products. You find chemicals that naturally bind themselves to cesium or whatever it is. And then you filter that out, or you float it out. You make those fission products heavier by adhering them to certain particles and chemicals. And then you settle them out and you dispose of them. You put them in a dry cask storage if they're high-level waste, or you put them in some other disposal site that can deal with low-level waste. And that's that. It's really not rocket science. You can get contaminated water down to safe levels in the same way you can get lead out of your water. Oh, nice. I've been wondering when the return of New Vegas would be, says Leonard Jenkins. Leonard, we've been doing it last 3 weeks in a row. Jeff with the 5, speaking of JPL, their Mars rover update panel is always a highlight for me and my friend at DragonCon. I will, this year, it's not finalized yet, but I did talk to him. So this year, I will be going to Adam Savage's Silicon And I'll be moderating a couple panels, including NASA panels. I think we'll be doing the Expanse panel like I usually do whenever we're in the same building. So if you're going to Silicon, you'll be able to, well, not shake my hand because I don't want you to touch me, but, you know. Any advice on how to explain to politicians how biology works? Says Aaron Levenstein back in the chat. So I don't want to bring up any political points, but the best, I mean, in terms of getting on the radar of people that may not have a science background, it's, from what I understand, being persistent and non-combative helps, which is writing letters and making phone calls to the people that matter and being, you know, voicing your opinion in a way that doesn't come off overly hostile or aggressive, because that makes your viewpoint seem hostile and aggressive. It's just a psychological thing that we have. The only thing we can do is to make our voices heard, you know, whether that, no matter what topic that be about of. Inazuma again with the 5. Kyle, do you ever plan on visiting South Florida? Would love to treat you to a beer or lager sometime. Actually, I might be in the Florida area tagging some sharks soon. But that's a fingers crossed kind of thing. I don't know. We have another about 2 minutes or so. So at this point in the day, in the broadcast, I'd just like to say, if you haven't watched the latest episode of The Facility about 3 Mile Island, please do. It's one of our best works ever. And if you want to see the only place on the internet where you can get science lessons and information and useless stuff to say at a cocktail party, plus gaming, join us. I have a phone call, which is why this is early and that's going to be late. Join us in the next 45 minutes to 60 minutes or so, right after this stream is live on the Kyle Hill Gaming channel, and you will see Fallout New Vegas. It's going to be rad. You get it. Just watched 3 Mile Island. It was great. Looney says, is love an unwavering feeling or a chemical reaction created by the brain to reproduce? ¿Por qué no los dos? You know, love and connection is interesting because obviously, well, everything is chemicals and electrical signals in your brain, right? And there's some evolutionary psychology theories that say like, well, why do you have such an intense connection at the start of a new relationship and then it tapers off? And tapers off heavily, for example, after you have kids. Could that be an evolutionary explanation? That after you have kids, suddenly you don't feel as lovey-dovey anymore because you don't need to. Do you know what I mean? Because you've reproduced, you passed on your genes. So should your genes care about long-term affection? However, there's other ideas and theories about it could also be evolutionarily advantageous to maintain that feeling over longer periods of time. I'm going to throw out a weird sentence at you. Why do killer whales get menopause? Why do killer whales get menopause? Why would an animal, not as social as we, but still social, why would they ever want to stop having kids? Or why would evolution pressure them towards not having kids or not being able to have kids anymore at some point? The idea is that it's still evolutionarily beneficial to have matriarchal supervision of older female killer whales in the pod to help the pod and the pod's babies. It is still beneficial. Even though that whale isn't reproducing, it helps the group as a whole reproduce. Right? So evolution can get super, super complicated where it's not just this first layer. Well, if this thing can't have babies, then who cares? Well, it gets more complicated than that. It's always more complicated than that. So I'll say this, You should. It's always more complicated. I'm not going to say it. It's always more complicated. And it's a shame when people can't understand the complication. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you to everyone who was here live. Thank you to everyone who super chatted. Thank you, Z, as always. If I didn't get to your super chats, knowing it's all going towards fixing up the facility, making videos, and fixing this light. Yes. I'll see you on the next episode of the facility, which is about throwing Thor's hammer. Yes, I actually threw Thor's hammer. Yes, it's a real hammer. The real Thor's hammer. We'll see. Coming up. If you want to join us, patreon.com/Kyle Hill. Join the official Discord, which you can't get anywhere else. Ping me at all times of day, and I'll get back to you. Maybe. Right after this, gaming stream time, continuing on the Fallout New Vegas adventure. Can I make it through a field of mortar fire fired by boomers? No, they don't just like jazz. They love exploding me. Join me there. Thank you to Crafty, our mod today, who's dealing with a lot of you weirdos. But you know what? No matter where I see it, no matter if it's on the next episode, next live stream, next gaming stream, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And remember to be nice to each other, because this is all we got.